Hi there, warriors, and welcome to this stream. So something went wrong a few minutes ago, but I'm back now and I'm live talking about a situation which has developed massively today. So at the start of today, I think many of us, including me for sure, thought Tabárez will be in charge at least for the next two games against Bolivia and Argentina. But today, with reports in increasing everywhere, saying that Tabárez will meet up today with the board, with the Uruguayan Football Association board, and that the board is planning to sack him, to basically, let him go after 15 years. In my opinion, it's the right decision. But the problem is obviously that this decision is being made at a really, really tough time with 6 games to go, and with a lot of games in a short amount of time. And the new manager who comes in, whoever he is, won't have much time to get his ideas across. But at the end of the day, it's the right decision. How can it not be? Uruguay have come from, in my opinion, 7 or 8 years of underperforming with this squad. And the man responsible for it has not been held accountable. He's been getting away with it, basically. And there's two problems for me. Tabárez, who's not the right manager, but also a really big player problem, which, it comes to the surface again today, is that the board, the Uruguayan Football Association board, who makes decisions, are not competent. They're not good enough to lead this FA. Because if you know football, if you see football, you watch football, and you know when something's going wrong and when something's going right, and the reasons behind it, you know that Tabárez is not up to the job for years. He's not been up to it. And I'm not having this be qualifying for every World Cup. I'm not having this. Of course, it's good. It's something positive. Obviously, it's positive. But in all this time, Uruguay have had the third, fourth, or maybe fifth, but always the third or fourth, in my opinion, best squad in South America. So qualifying for the World Cup, when you play in the South American qualifiers against 10 teams and against 9 teams, qualifying in one of the first 4 places of 5, it's an obligation. It's an obligation. You have to ask yourself this question: if Uruguay don't qualify for the World Cup, if Uruguay finish 6th, would it be underperforming? Would it be a failure? In my opinion, it would be a failure. So, by that logic, qualifying for the World Cup, it's not overperforming. You know, Peru in 2018, they qualified. It was overperforming. It was a great job. Great job done by Careca and the team. But if Uruguay qualify for the World Cup, it's normal. It's an obligation. And okay, then you can say, that's all nice and well. But Uruguay, before Tabárez came in, didn't qualify for 3 World Cups out of 5. And that's true. Obviously, it's true. But then you have to ask yourself this question: is the squad we have right now any way comparable to these squads before? Because right now, and for the last years, Uruguay had players in the top of their game in Europe, playing for the big clubs, being decisive in big moments, in big titles, in big tournaments. So with the players we have, it is an obligation, in my opinion. So I don't get this argument. I understand that if you like Tabárez, you don't like to see him go. But for me, at this moment in time, there's no other decision to be made. The only problem is that this decision has to be made in 2016 or in 2018 or in 2019 or last winter. Then this is the time when you make a decision. It's a rational decision, but now a decision is made out of emotion. But if we had a board, so the FA, the Uruguayan FA, the AUF, if we had a board who was competent and did their job right and were competent to do their job, this situation would have never occurred, because we would have had another manager in, years ago. But yeah, that's my opinion. I see 7 people in the chat. Thank you for being here. Please like the live stream if you want, and let me know your opinions about the situation. Because obviously we can talk and we can talk and we can talk, but until nothing is official, we can't talk too much, because Tabárez is still the Uruguay manager, and as it stands right now, he will take charge of the games against Argentina and Bolivia, which in my opinion is not the right thing. Hey, Eric Duran, what's going on, brother? Hi, man, good to see you. Yeah, nothing much. Nothing much, to be honest. I went to have a haircut. That's what's going to be going on. Basically, checking Twitter and Ovation and referee, watching the news basically in the last few days. But yeah, that's what's been going on. Hopefully you are all doing well who's watching the live stream. So yeah, this is what the situation is. The front runner to take over from Tabárez is Diego Aguirre, who's currently the manager of Internacional. And for me, he is a good option. It's not my favorite option because Aguirre, although he's a good manager, is quite pragmatic. He's quite defensive, conservative in his management style. So he can get results for sure. He can, but he is not a manager who's perfectly suited to the type of group we have, because we've got really good attacking midfielders, holding midfielders with great quality on the ball, and also good young strikers coming through. So in my opinion, the best manager for Uruguay is Guillermo Almada from Santos Laguna. Did a great job in Ecuador, did really well with the River Plate in Uruguay, and now he's doing a great job again in Mexico. And the most important thing for me is that he is a really modern manager. He's an offensive manager with high pressing. His team plays good football. Okay, maybe they don't win every time. They don't win titles as much. But you know what? He has never been in charge of a team that has had the obligation to win. But he's always given his team a new lease of life, some good football, a good style of play, and an identity. Because you know what? And it's the worst thing for me is Uruguay have not had an identity in these last years. They didn't have one. And certainly they didn't have a style of play. Because the shift that was going on after the young players coming through, like Federico Valverde, Bentancur, people were talking, or the media were talking about, well, now it's time for Uruguay to shift their style of play, to get more attacking, to be more focused on ball possession, creating chances, and basically having a more possession-orientated style. But we have not really seen this. Of course, we have had games where we had most of the ball, but did we create much? Are we good against a low block? Do we play well against a low block? We don't. And under this manager, I have no confidence that we will ever be this type of team. So yeah, and before I'm going into the comments, and please leave behind your comments about your opinion and everything. Just leave it in the comments, and we will chat about it. But before I will do this, I will say the following. The first 4 or 5 years after we took over, so 2006 until 2011, nobody can ever question what Tabárez did back then. Uruguay, basically, the national team were disconnected from a lot of fans because they were failure after failure after failure, and sometimes people thought the players did not really care as well. But when Tabárez took over, he really restabilized the national team. He has been a great influence on the youth setup with the Complejo Celeste, the national team camp, basically, where they train and where they sleep and all. This has been something implemented by him. And the way Uruguay now handle the youth process, the youth national teams, it's been changed, revolutionized by him. So all of these things, you can say, brilliant. And I applaud him for this, and I will always do. But after these first 4 or 5 years, where he basically got results for Uruguay, he got the semifinal in the World Cup, then the Copa America win. But after these first 4 or 5 years, Uruguay for 10 years, for me, have underperformed. And you can disagree, sure. But if you disagree and you think Uruguay in the last 10 years performed, then I think your standards are not good enough. Because my standards is to compete, to win things. Okay, you cannot always win things. When you play a World Cup against big teams, against great teams, it's not realistic sometimes to think we're going to win this. But when you go 4 Copa Americas, not reaching 1 semifinal, that is underperforming. That's not good enough. It is unacceptable. Unacceptable. Completely unacceptable. And this is why I understand people having an attachment to Tabárez for what he's done to the national team, and also for the kind of person he is sometimes. I think the last few years he's done himself a disservice, He's really not given a good image of himself by the way he's handled the press, handled the fans, by how he speaks, and handled the media. But that's my opinion. But completely focused on football, in the last 10 years, Uruguay have been underperforming. Completely underperforming. And we can say, okay, reaching the quarterfinal in the World Cup is a good run. And I agree it wasn't bad. But don't overdo it. Don't over-exaggerate. Because Uruguay in this World Cup, you also have to realize, they beat Portugal in a brilliant performance. Brilliant. France, they were beaten, and they were the eventual world champions. So you can say, well, nothing much more to do about this. So you can agree that maybe this was the time France were the better team. They went through. We were knocked out in the quarterfinals. It was a good run. But it was nothing more than this. So I don't really like this as an argument to see, well, look at what Tabárez did there. No, I'm not really similar to this. Colombia reached the quarterfinals in 2014, but as well, they reached semifinals for the Copa America and started competing in the Copa America. We have not done either of this in the last 10 years. 4 knockouts before the quarterfinals. I keep reminding myself this: 4 quarterfinal knockouts in the Copa America. 4. That's in a row for the team that has won the Copa America the most times. That's unacceptable, in my opinion. I will look at the comments. Santiago Soria, whoever comes in, hopefully we start using some other footballers who deserve a chance. Espino, Oliveira, Cabrera, Damian Suarez. Yeah, I agree. Some people have been overlooked a lot. Damian Suarez, like you say, the left backs in Spain who are doing well. Olaza, Oliveira, Espino. These players have been overlooked. Diego Rossi, maybe. But you know what I come back to Brazil, to the game against Brazil. What shocked me really is because Uruguay is still, although some players maybe deserve a chance, they still got a great squad, playing for top clubs in Europe, doing it on a weekly level, most of them. But when you play Rodrigo Bentancur on right midfield, there's nothing more to say. There's nothing more to say because this decision like this shows to me that someone is completely out of his depth. He's completely out of his depth. How can you do that? How can you play Rodrigo Bentancur on right midfield? It's just he's the last person you can play on the wing. Ultimately, he's nothing of a wing player, nothing of a wide player. He is nothing. He has to be in the middle for his passing, for his deployment, for his physical deployment. Yes, he can do this really well. But a right midfield spot, and he was being murdered on that side. He was being absolutely murdered in the first half, completely. And then playing Viña, while he's been absolutely shocking, and not playing Piqueres. Also another shocking decision. And he changed it at half time because he finally realized that he did something wrong. And then Matias Vecino, who plays almost 270 minutes in the 3 games. He was subbed out after 65 minutes. I don't know why, to be honest, because I really thought he was going to play all game. Because however bad he plays, he keeps playing. He keeps playing while he doesn't offer anything to the team at this moment in time. And decisions like this is what is really frustrating me, because we can all see the clear mistakes he's making tactically in terms of who he plays. And it keeps going on and on and on. And now the board or the media wake up suddenly because we lose 4-1 away in Brazil and we lost 3-0 away at Argentina. These are bad defeats. Absolutely bad defeats. Certainly in a way that has been that the defeats were suffered, in the way of playing. But I don't really understand how these 2 results can make a situation change completely. Because you know what? Before these 2 games, the situation has been like this for 4 years. 4 years. 4 years it's been like this, maybe more. Bad results, bad performances, sometimes being covered up by brilliant play by Suarez or Cavani or other stars. And basically, they got Tabárez out of jail many times because of the quality that they have. But in terms of the identity, the style of play, Uruguay have been basically lost nowhere in the last years. And for the board and the Uruguay media to now wake up to it and to now realize it just shows 2 things: complete lack of knowledge or complete ignorance. It's one of the 2. Complete lack of knowledge could be the case that they just don't know that they just believe that when you qualify for the World Cup, barely, and when you come to the quarterfinals for the Copa America, it's acceptable. Maybe this is their stance. Maybe this is the way they live football. I don't live the football like this, because even if we qualify for the World Cup, if you play like this and don't make progression in terms of your style of play, in the patterns of play, the way you play, if you don't progress this thing, if you don't progress a way of playing for your team, you have no chance of even competing. And that's the problem in my eyes. And this is the problem that's been going on for a long time. So for 2 defeats to suddenly wake everybody up, not us fans, because I think us fans are really realistic in what we see. And we are, I think, I'm speaking for myself here, obviously, but you have to confirm. But for me, the problems have been going on for a long time, for years. Problems have been going on. And it just disappoints me that just now the media and the Uruguayan Football Association wake up and suddenly think it's time for change. You know what? The time of change was last summer or last winter, depending on where you live. But it should be a couple of months ago, after the Copa America. The time of change was after the 2019 Copa America. The time of change was after the 2018 World Cup. The time of change was after the 2016 Copa America. These are times of change, and you start a new cycle, and you start with something new. And now you do it in the middle of a qualification process, and you suddenly wake up to the problems that have been happening for years. So this is why, even if Tabárez is sacked today, if he leaves, if he's not the manager anymore, the next people that have to go are some of the board members of the AOF, because simply they are not competent enough to run to do the job. But the problem with this is that, and this is all around the world the same. The national team, the board, the directives, they are not brilliant football people. They are not. They make a good amount of money, but the top football people are working for clubs. They earn way more money, have way more influence. This is basically a job that you get if you are friendly with someone, or if you hire in a certain type of business, and then you get into this position, earn some good money. But the people in this board, they don't know nothing about football, absolutely nothing. Because if you do know anything about football, they wouldn't have let this problem been going on for years and for years and for years. And that is the thing that that disappoints me, to be honest. Okay, I'm gonna look at some comments. Hey man, Tabárez leaving is not confirmed yet, right? Hernan Rias says this. No, it's not confirmed yet. Well, I'll check my Twitter, because the meeting was planned to go ahead at 5 o'clock Uruguayan time. So this is 20 minutes ago. And it's the meeting of let me have a look. This is the meeting of the board members and Óscar Tabárez. So yeah. Sorry. But it's going on. So I will look out for the updates. Hopefully we get something. But let's wait a second. So yeah, Santiago. Let me first. S Gap in LA says, brother, do you think Aguirre will call the same players, or will there be changes? There has to be direction from the AOF to change things. Yeah, but that's the last point you make. Certainly, it has to be. But will there be? I don't believe so. No, absolutely not. Because it's been going on for years, and now they change suddenly because we have two bad defeats. But the AOF is part of the problem. Tabárez is part of the problem, but the AOF is part of the problem as well. They are both not good enough to do this job. And the other question you ask is, do you think Aguirre will call some players, or will there be changes? Well, I hope there will be, because there are some people keep being played, like Vecino, like Godin, that just don't deserve to keep being played. Even Muslera. I mean, and I had a discussion with someone on Twitter yesterday, and at the end of the day, I was basically the one who did not understand football. That's fine. If this person thinks this, that's fine. Absolutely fine. But I was saying that Muslera made a huge mistake against Brazil, a huge mistake against Argentina, and even though he had loads of saves afterwards, loads of great saves afterwards, I said, well, I'm still think he did not have a good performance, because at this level you can't make a mistake like he's made. So you can save 5 goals. Yeah, you can save 5 goals, 5 certain goals. You can deny 5 great chances. But if you make a big mistake like he does, and we lose, he is not done his job good enough. But if you think he can make a good mistake or a big mistake, and then make a few good saves, if you think these few good saves suddenly make his performance good or good enough, well, I don't understand what you're coming from, because I don't understand football like this. But yeah. Santiago Soria says, I agree that our current squad should still be good enough to be competitive versus Brazil and Argentina. We'll not win every game, but it's about how we lost. No fight, no ideas. Yeah, that's the problem. And you make a great point, because it's not always about the way, or it's not always the fact that you lose, but it's not about the way you lose. So if you look against Argentina, the game against Argentina, you can say, well, maybe the first half an hour, we should have got a goal with Suarez. Yes, this could happen. For sure. Maybe we could have got a goal. And maybe the game would have been different. But it didn't happen. And Uruguay got behind and then basically collapsed. Peru got behind. They got a penalty back. They missed it. And so it ended 1-0. But their reaction was something of a team. It was a reaction of a team that is inferior to our team, but a team that is better coached, better managed than we are. So it's not always about, like you say, the way you lose, but it's also the way you lose. Sorry, it's not always the fact that you lose. It's about the way you lose, about the way you react, you perform. And I read a statistic like yesterday that the last time that Uruguay came back from defeat or from a losing position was in 2017. I mean, that's just a terrible statistic, right? So that's 4 years without coming back from a losing position. That's not good enough for me. But yeah, so that's the thing. The character. So Tabares has a lot. I think Tabares has to take a lot of blame, but also the players. Surely they have to be held accountable for their performances as well. But at the end of the day, they do not get picked. They don't get picked by themselves. They get picked by a coach, by the managing staff. So when a player like Vecino or Godin keeps being picked while they are not performing, that is the coach's mistake, and that is just what is disappointing. Um, so John Fernandez says, seriously, I know he hasn't been great in the last year, but don't forget all the good he's done. He's a true icon and legend of Uruguayan football. Don't be like an Arsenal fan. Yeah, you know what? So let me put it like this. It's all great and well what he has done in the past. All great, just like you referred to Arsenal, just like Arsene Wenger did really well in his first 10 years. But this does not have to make us blind to what is happening right now. So somebody can do brilliantly. So I can get a girlfriend, and this girlfriend is brilliant to me. She is really lovely. I really love her. She loves me. We have great time and all this. You know what happens for the first 4 years. So the next 4 years, she cheats with me every day. So I'm not going to say, well, you know what? He was an icon. She was an icon for me. She was a legend for me. I really loved my time with her. I love her, and this was brilliant. But yeah, what is happening right now? I'm just going to ignore it. And I know it's a absolutely stupid comparison. I know that. But what I'm trying to say is that the fact that it was great before, the fact that he did some brilliant things for Uruguay, does not mean it has to influence my view or my belief that he should be sacked right now, and he should have been sacked a long time ago. This has nothing to do with being reactionary. This is simply having to do with looking at the picture, looking at the realistic point of view, and don't get sentimental about things of the past, about things he's done. Because what does it do to me? I want my team to see compete and to win things. And with Tavares in charge, the chance of this this happening is just zero in my opinion. So of course I'm going to say no. He should not be here anymore. That's the way it is. And he says we need to change, but let's be respectful as well. Well, I'm respectful to him. I'm respectful for what he's done in the past. So I will never like swear at him or something on Twitter or on here. Absolutely not. But you know what has to be said as well? He also has to be respectful to the fans. And he's not respectful to the fans. Because if he's respectful to the fans who follow Uruguay, want to see Uruguay compete, he should have stepped down years ago. Because he's not up to his job, and it's the only thing that keeps going him, and keeps being him, keeps letting him be the Uruguay manager is his ego. His ego. This is an ego thing. For him, it's an ego thing to be Uruguay manager. And if you watch the press conferences of Uruguay, well, last week, but for the last few years, he's been making all the time sneaky remarks, remarks that basically people don't know what they're talking about, and that he is in the right as always, that never taking responsibility, always deflecting it, and never basically being held accountable or having himself held accountable for his actions, and always deflecting the blame to somewhere else. And I don't find disrespectful to people who watch the game, people who follow Uruguay, because they see what is happening, and they are being basically told everything is all right, and yeah, that is also not respectful in my opinion. I will move on because I feel I'm going a little bit too long about this. So Santiago Soria makes a good point. Tabares doesn't have the respect to step away. So why should we respect him? And I mean I would still respect him. So this is not I don't agree with this part, but his point is valid. So he doesn't have the respect to step away and to basically stop us being the team we are and stop the stagnation of the process of the progression of the team. He doesn't have that respect for the team, because I mean he has to understand and he has to realize that this is not going well. It simply is not. I mean, he plays Rodrigo Mentecu on the right wing. I keep saying it. This is just stupid stuff. I mean, every manager in the world won't do this. No manager in the world will do this. Maybe Solskjaer, maybe the Manchester United manager, because he's in the same class, in my opinion. But things like this. And then you talk about we have to respect him, and obviously we respect him. But there also has to be some respect towards us as fans, and not being served this this football and not being served these excuses, and these deflecting of blame, never taking responsibility. This is also no respect for the people that are watching Uruguay. So yeah, I think S Gap in LA. I think Tabárez is strident, defiant, sorry, and rude. I also think he hasn't really accomplished much since 2011. Not once have we gotten out of the quarterfinals since then. Tabárez is arrogant. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you the fact that he hasn't really accomplished much since 2011. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and well, if you say this now, then you get a lot of stick, because there are some people out there who defend Tavares to the hill. And if you want to do this, absolutely great. Do this. You have to have your opinion, and you have to stand for it, because I mean, I appreciate people like that more than people who basically go with every opinion. They ride the wave of everybody's opinion, so they never have an opinion themselves, and they just follow. They are sheeps. So if you have this opinion, brilliant, do this. But I have to ask you this question. Do you feel that in the last 10 years, Tabárez has done his job, has done well, has performed in a good level? Do you think this? Do you think he has been good enough as a Uruguay manager in the last 10 years? Do you believe this? Do you think exiting in 4 Copa Americas before the semi-final stage is good enough? Is acceptable? Do you think that Uruguay being demolished away from home, never winning against Brazil, winning once against Argentina in 15 years is good enough? Do you think that Uruguay, instead of trying to compete with Argentina and Brazil, competing with Ecuador, Peru, Chile, Paraguay, Colombia, do you think this is good enough? When we have players like Suarez, Cavani, Jimenez, Araujo, Valverde, Bentancur, Torreira. I can keep going on, and not all of them are in a good moment now, maybe, but there are so many quality in our squad. So I believe that if you hear what I just listed and you hear the squad we have, I think what he's performing right now in the last few years is not good enough. So this is why I think he's not the right man for the job. So yeah. Santiago Soria says, thanks everyone, by the way, for being here. I can understand people disagreeing with me. That doesn't matter, or doesn't matter, because it's okay to disagree. But let me know your opinions in the chat. And I see a lot of people talking in the chat, but just talk about it, and we will get there eventually. And yeah, just a weird time, because you don't want to. You know what? I want Tabárez to go, but I don't want it at the end of the day. I don't want things like this to happen. I want Uruguay to compete, to sometimes lose, obviously, but hopefully win most of the times, to play football, which maybe not is always the best, but we see an identity, we see a style of play, we see progression. I want this. So this is the things I want in an ideal world. And in the ideal world, I want Tabárez to be a great manager, to do great things for us, to make the decisions we want them to make the decisions that make sense. So for this to happen right now, I don't want it. I don't like it. It's not like I'm sitting here, oh yes, Tabárez is going. Oh, I never want to see him again, and I wish everything bad on him. Obviously, I'm not like this, because I also respect what he's done. But if we come away from this ideal world, which I just described, in reality right now, the only good decision or right decision is Tabárez to leave. So yeah. This is just my opinion. By the way, please like the video if you want. It helps me out, because the visibility on YouTube gets more. So it would be great if you want to do this. And if you want to see more, and if you want to support the YouTube account, please subscribe as well. I will be doing a lot of videos in the coming weeks and months. Also outside of national team. Also, if Suarez scores 2 goals against Liverpool tomorrow, then I will make a video about this. And I will also make weekly roundups talking about the best performances of Uruguayan players. So please subscribe and like. Will be really great. Thank you. Thanks a lot. So let me have a look. If Tabárez is fired, Aguirre will probably be a transition coach. Could be the case. The thing with Aguirre is, and this is not being maybe being a little bit of mean, but I honestly think that Aguirre coming from Internacional and basically the Uruguayan Association effort to pay off Internacional will be a bit of a problem, because we don't really have money, the Uruguayan Football Association. or at least we don't have money. They don't have money they want to spend, because they basically want to put everything in their own pockets. So maybe this is going to be a little bit of a problem. But on your point that he is being a transition coach, that he will be a transition coach for Uruguay, this could be the case. But I think Aguirre, I think he's 60 around this point, so it's not like he is, and he's fit. You have some people who are 60 and they are really losing their physical and their psychological capabilities. But Aguirre is really a fit guy, a fit person who's basically is more than capable of managing Uruguay for a long time, and he has been talked about a lot in recent years, and he has done a really good job for Internacional. He's got them back playing, performing, getting results, getting clean sheets after they were really bad in the first stages of the Brasileiro. And above this, so besides this, Bruno Mendes, who is a central defender for Internacional, he came over to Internacional a few months ago on loan from Corinthians, and Aguirre has played Bruno Mendes in center of defense, and he's been really good. So I always like to see this everywhere. I like to see Uruguayans doing well, and Aguirre has done a really good job there. Is he my ideal manager? I think I said it earlier in the stream. My ideal manager would be Guillermo Almada, and after that probably Diego Alonso, who maybe was sacked by Inter Miami, but the job he has done in Mexico, winning 2 CONCACAF Champions Leagues, brilliant. So yeah, I'm gonna move a little bit to the comments because I'm a bit left behind. I have to scroll a lot back or below. So yeah, let me have a look. So, do you think it's possible at all? There's not a coach by the World Cup. No, it's not possible because for 2 reasons. It's not possible, in my opinion, to start a World Cup without the manager because there are plenty of candidates out there, and maybe not all candidates are the best. But for example, Fabian Coito, I would not like him as manager. Let's get this straight. For me, he's done okay for Uruguay under 20 and the youth setup, but the football these teams were playing under his guidance, under his management, I didn't really like it, to be honest. And then he was in 2019 he took charge of Honduras, and he's not done a good job there. Simply, he's not done a good job there. They're already struggling in the qualification for the World Cup of the CONCACAF, and he's been. I don't think if he has been sacked or he's resigned, but he's not there anymore. And this was not the plan, because his plan was to try and get them into the World Cup of 2022, and he's been sacked or resigned, whatever it is, before even this qualification process is finished. So that is not a good sign. But back to the point I was making, Gus Poyet is someone who's free. So I can name more, but you get what I mean. There are enough managers free and available to take over. So the fact that the possibility of not having a coach at the World Cup, I don't see it as a possibility, because just don't see it like this. So think about all the talent that has never gotten a shot because of petty things like who their agents are, or maybe they said something that Tabárez didn't like at some point. He behaves like a mafioso. I don't know about that. I see some people in the chat really not having Tabárez, really getting angry and upset by him, and I understand this, because you never like your team. You never like to see your team losing. So I understand the frustration, the emotions. But going back to the point you're making, there are things that I don't like as well. There are people who are being left out or never being chosen for reasons, not having to do with football. Because if you look purely on football, Damian Suarez has been the right back, the best right back, Uruguayan right back in the last 4 years maybe. He's been called up once, not at one appearance. And we keep playing. Namnes has done brilliantly in there, but he's not a right back. He's a midfielder or a wing back, but certainly not a right back. So Martin Katcher has played there a lot as well. Martin Katcher is as finished as you could ever see. He's not up to the top level of football anymore, in my opinion. And then you have someone like Damian Suarez, who's consistently performing in La Liga, one of the best leagues in the world. and he's consistently performing there, and he's not ever getting a chance. How can you understand this? Another one, Diego Rossi, doing quite well in the MLS, or really well in the MLS, and now he's at Fenerbahce, but he did really well for the MLS. And Brian Rodriguez, although I really love him, he was nowhere near the level of Diego Rossi in the last 2-3 years in America, in MLS. But still, Brian was keep being called up, and Rossi had one call up, and I think he made one appearance. I'm not sure. I think he made some minutes, but if not, then he didn't even make an appearance. Nico Lopez, done so well for Tigres, done really well, is doing so well for Tigres at the moment. He's injured right now, but this year he's been doing really well. For Internacional, did really well. Never get any chance. I don't understand this. And I understand, I agree with S Gap in LA, that's his name, that this is really frustrating, yeah, obviously. Obviously, with qualifying, he will remain, and I assume him not making the World Cup would be his last run as Uruguay manager. Yeah, I mean, he said himself that after the 2022 World Cup, it probably will be his time to say goodbye. But I think I think we will qualify regardless of who will stay in charge. If Tabárez stays in charge, I think we will qualify because our team is too good not to get the results in the last 4 games. I think the upcoming 2 games are going to be really tough, but then it's Venezuela at home, I think. Yeah, it's Peru at home, Chile away, and Paraguay away, which obviously no easy game there. No easy games in qualifiers, but I think we will get enough points to make it to the World Cup then. But for me, this is not the discussion, because with this team, you have to have an obligation to make it to the World Cup. And the fact that we are struggling to get there and in danger of not getting there, and is a problem for me. But the biggest problem for me is, and I've said this before, is the fact that we don't have an identity, not a style of play. We don't make progression in this team. We have no progression in this team. But this is also what I'm saying, is at this moment to sack him. Okay, I agree with the fact that he's not the right man, but this is not the moment to sack him. The moment to sack him was a few months ago after the Copa, or just before the cycle of the 2022 World Cup, or just after the 2018 World Cup. These are moments when you can make a calculated decision, a rational decision, and you say, okay, we end it here, and now we make a new appointment, a new manager, and we're trying to build something again. But then again, I've said it before, this Uruguayan Football Association, the AUF, is not competent. They're not good enough to do their job, basically. Hernan Riga says, if he stays for the World Cup, and he means Tabárez or we won't make it out of the group stage. Well, maybe not. And this is also a thing that is you can say, okay, he qualifies for the World Cup, and obviously we want to be in the World Cup. But the point I'm also making is that if we qualify for the World Cup, do you think we are going to compete for something? Do you think we're going to challenge for something with how we are playing right now? No, absolutely not. And is that good enough? Is just qualifying good enough? Not in my opinion, but yeah. Danny F says, I would play Rochette, Damian, Jimenez, Araujo, Viña, Bentancur, Valverde, Torreira, Rossi, De La Cruz, and Suarez on top. Well, I'm not sure if I agree completely with the lineup, but I understand that you let out some, that you, Vecino, for example, Godin, for example, you don't want to see them again in the starting lineup, and with this I agree. Ken Johnson, good to see you here, man. How can he not see, given the sentiment, that the honorable way out would be to resign? Well, I agree with what you're saying, and how can you not see it? But the fact that he didn't see it after this year's Copa, the fact that he didn't see it after the 2019 Copa, means that he will not see it now as well, because he is blinded by, well, basically his ego and thinking that he can do it, but he's not capable of doing it anymore. So yeah. So let me have a look. John Fernandez says, everyone has an ego, of course. He doesn't want to leave because his ego says he can turn it around for Uruguay. I'd respect him a lot less if he walked away and just left Uruguay in this position. No, he's not going to walk in this position, because there were so many moments in time in the last few years that the time was there to walk away or to resign, whatever. and he's not going to do it in the middle of a qualification process. But I don't have a problem with someone having an ego, because it's good to have an ego, because if you are a manager or a footballer, or if you're doing anything you do in life, if you want to achieve something, you have to have some sort of ego, which drives you too, which makes you believe that you are the best and you can do it and you can be the best. I understand this, but there's also something as well, being an egomaniac or being blind to the realistic, what's happening, the reality. And for me, Tabares has a little bit of this. And the second point is that he can have this ego. He can believe he can turn it around, and he can say, "Well, I'll stay there because I believe I can turn it around." Although the evidence is not there, we have not seen it in the last few years. But Tavares is still employed. He's employed by the AUF. He is employed by the Uruguayan Football Association. So he can do it like this. He can be like this. But above him are directives. And if they see this, if they see that what is going on is not good enough, that he's not good enough as a manager anymore, they have to make a decision to sack him, to fire him, however you want to call it. And this is the problem we have. We have a manager who's not good enough, in my opinion, incompetent. And we have a board, the AOF, who is also not good enough to do the job. So both parties, or both, how do you say it? Well, both the manager and the board, they are not up to their job. And this is why we are in the position we are in now. Tapares is 50% of the problem, but the board is also 50% of the problem. Okay, let's have a look. So I'm really have a sore throat right now. Speaking too much, maybe. So yeah, but thanks for everyone being here again, and thanks for all the comments. I'm scrolling a little bit down now because otherwise I won't catch up with the comments. Giovanni Freitas says, Uruguay needs a new style of play. This is Uruguay. We can't be losing to Argentina and Brazil by 3 goals. Just now, not acceptable. Look at Germany. New coach, new facilities, and results are back. Yeah, I mean, I understand. I really agree with what you're saying as well. But the thing is that for me, it's not like losing against Argentina and Brazil. It can happen. It can't happen in the way it is. I mean, it has happened in the last few days, but it can happen. But the problem I have is the results against teams like Paraguay, Venezuela, Peru, Colombia, which are teams that are not as good as ours. Maybe Colombia is on the same level a little bit, but I don't believe they are. But not as good as ours, as our squad, in my opinion. And we can't get the win there. We can't play in a way that is, well, where you can look at and think, well, this is okay. This is positive. We can see a progression. We can see a style of play. We can see an identity, and we never see it. So this is what is the biggest problem, in my opinion. And the Germany, well, they have a new coach and new ideas, fresh ideas. But Germany is how do you say it? When something is going wrong there, these are people, and most people in the Germany Association or France, when something is going wrong, when really a failure is happening, they are more rational. They think more. They're not that emotional about making this decision. And what is going on for Uruguay is that so many of these board members, of these players, and also fans, are so attached to Tabares that although they see the problems that are happening, they probably don't really want to say it, and they probably don't want to make this decision to fire him. So yeah, but I would have liked to have the Germany situation much better. This would be something I prefer massively. So A60 says he really is. Uruguayans will remember the mate thing. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I'm not going to talk about it here because yeah, this is a different story. But I know what you mean. Yeah. So let me have a look. So sorry, I just trying to pick out a comment because I see a lot of interaction between the fans as well. So that's really good to see. But I just trying to find a comment that I can bring to you all. So yeah. Okay. Ajay Gulsar says, I think Tabares has turned too big in Uruguay. Basically, a symbol at this point, which is possibly a factor as to why he's been charged for this long. I think it's a good point you make, and something I would like to add: he has become a symbol as well for something more than football, in the way that he has handled the youth process, the way he's coming out with philosophical quotes all the time. So he is for some Uruguayans, I think, more of a status. So the status is bigger than just a football manager. And this is all well. Oh, this is great, if you can have this. Absolutely brilliant. And the fact that, I say it again, the fact that how he has handled the youth process, the restabilization of the national team, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But you know what? As a fan, I'm focused on one thing the most. So these things at the side, which are important, it's really good that he's handled it like he has done in these 15 years. But number one should come. Number one is always the football team, the national football team, the senior national football team. And if they are performing, if they are winning, if they are competing, this is the number one priority. And in this aspect of his, well, basically of his work, which is his work, because he can do really well by restabilizing the youth setup. But his number one job, his job basically, is winning games, competing with the national team. And in the last 10 years, this has not been, well, this has not been up to scratch. It's been below par. It's been not good enough. And basically, this is what I'm basing my judgment on when I'm talking about if I think Tabárez should go or not. And yeah, well, the answer is clear. Answer is clear. So Aguirre can change something in 2 or 3 trainings, says Nico Kolkin. No, of course he can't. I mean, so the argument that a new manager coming in on such short notice with so little time to so basically get his ideas across is a good argument, because this is true. But then you have to ask yourself this: has Tabárez tactics influenced the team or the way we're playing in a good way in the last few games or the last few years? Do you see a clear idea or a clear style of play with Tabárez? No. So then a manager coming in on such short notice, he can't do much worse than Tabárez has been doing in the last few years. He can't. In my opinion, he can't. Because you know what? A manager who is competent enough to do his job will not play Vecino all the time. He will not keep playing Godin over Arajo or Coates. He will not play Rodrigo Bento on right midfield. And you know what he will not do as well? Is take off Nicolas de la Cruz at halftime against Brazil. What a ridiculous decision. Honestly. Could you believe this? I couldn't believe it. De la Cruz was probably with Valverde the only two who had a good performance. At a 6 or 6.5, 7. They are the only ones who were showing face. They showed up. They got on the ball, tried to make some things happen, and he takes off De La Cruz. What a joke, man! And then he keeps on Cáceres. I wanted to scream at the fucking TV. Then sorry to swear, but I mean these things are just ridiculous decisions. So if you ask me, can Aguirre or can a new manager change anything overnight? No, they can't. But you know what they can do? Make the basic decisions right. So the simple decisions as to who plays where, who plays there, who plays where. So just the basic things. And it's the problem that the basic things are going wrong for Uruguay. The basic things of selecting the people who deserve it, selecting the people on the right position. These are the basic things that are going wrong. So when a new manager comes in, he doesn't have to hit a really high standard to do better. That's just the reality in my opinion. I agree. De La Cruz was our best player after Muslera in the first half. I mean, I understand what you mean with Muslera. He made some really good saves, but I say it again, you can make 4 or 5 really good saves. Saves. I mean, you can make 4 or 5 really good saves, but if you make a blunder for 1 goal, then does it count? What does it count? Because you eventually cost the game, and not only him, Muslera, obviously not. But he made a big mistake against Argentina, and I think against Brazil. Okay, you could say it was unlucky, but I think it was a mistake. The way he parried it, so he made the save, but he parried it away in the path of the attacker, and it was just bad goalkeeping in my opinion. So you make 2 big mistakes, in consecutive games, and you can say in the second half against Argentina and against Brazil, he made some really good saves. So if it wasn't for him, it could have been 6-1, 7-1, whatever. But when I assess a performance of a goalkeeper, I'm not looking at the goals he saves. I'm not looking at the saves he makes to deny goals. I'm looking at the goals he allows that he should have. I'm looking at if he makes a mistake. Because if a goalkeeper makes a mistake, and Casillas made a brilliant quote. Iker Casillas made a brilliant quote. He said something along the lines of this. So being a goalkeeper is I have to get it right, but it's a long time I read it. But he said something like being a goalkeeper is like being a human being or being a bad person. No, he says being a goalkeeper is being like a person. You can make 600 good things. You can make 600 saves, or you can do 600 good things. Everyone will only remember your one mistake. So that is the reality of a goalkeeper. So you can make 5 really good saves. If you make one terrible mistake, people will remember this. And I think they're right to, because if you are at this level, you can't make mistakes like he is doing. Sorry that I just messed up this quote. So I read it a while ago, but it just came into my head. But I'm not got the exact words he said. So Nico Colkin says, "Yeah, you're right. I just think timing of changing is very bad. Argentina and then Bolivia away. He will make 1 point with luck, and then who knows?" Yeah, I agree that the timing is wrong, and yeah, that's the truth. But I don't think any manager will do worse, in my opinion. Danny F says, "I'm worried about the future goalkeepers for Uruguay. We have no one. We have no younger goalkeepers." Sorry, I have to read this right. He says, I'm worried about the future of goalkeepers for Uruguay. We have no one younger goalkeeper who's at the same level. Same at right back. Nanders will probably be our best right back for the time being. Well, the goalkeepers, I think Franco Israel is playing for Juventus. He's promising. I think Santiago Mele is quite young as well. Rochette still struggles a little bit in terms of the depth, the depth of quality. There are never a lot of goalkeepers around from top level. And at the right back, Nunes, he's doing a good job there. Is he the ideal option? For me, Damian Suarez is. But Damian Suarez is 32 years of age. So, yeah, we have to see what comes through, what comes up. But I think it will be okay. Ajay Gulsar says, Diego Aguirre has always stated his availability for Uruguay in interviews over the past few years. I feel he is a competent manager, and he is a really good choice on a short notice. Still prefer Almada. Completely agree with you. I think if we have to make a decision right now, and Aguirre is available, I think it's an okay appointment. He's a good manager in the fact that he can get results. He can make his defense quite tight. He can defensively he's quite a good coach, but when it comes to implementing an offensive style of football, I don't think he's a really good manager. So in one area of the game, he is quite competent, quite good. But in terms of the offensive side of the game, I think he's not the right manager. But if you talk of short notice, short term, he's a good option. But like Ajay says, I still prefer Almada. But is this possible? Probably not. So otherwise, maybe we would have heard more talk about it. So yeah. You know what? I'm going to call it a day or call it a night, however you want to call it. We've been going on for 43 minutes. I really enjoyed it. I hope you liked it as well. And if you liked it, please leave the like. Please like the video. It will help me out a lot. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe, because on average, 50% of people who are watching my streams or my videos, they are not subscribed. So if you're watching my streams or videos and you like it, but you're not subscribed yet, please subscribe. You can see when I go live or when I make a video, and you can also help me out and support the account in this way, So please subscribe and please like. And I want to thank you all for being here and for having another good chat as well. So yeah, I will see you very soon. Okay, bye-bye.